And I find it extremely difficult to get through this section without really getting angry. So I do apologize ahead of time if that does happen. But we're going to talk about conflict of interests, and I don't just mean minor. As you'll see, we'll get into some examples. And I want to highlight to you, and this is for anybody who's going to see this video who's thinking to themselves, if we could just elect the right people, this could all be fixed. Okay? And that doesn't mean, it means whoever, whether you're considering the Christian Heritage Party, a Slate of Independents, Maxim Bernier, Derek Sloan, Wild Rose, Communist Party of Canada, the whole 9 yards, right? If you or someone you know has the frame of mind that if we could just elect the right people, we could make things better, okay? So Dr. Tam is our Chief Medical Officer for Canada. Dr. Tam also sits on the International Health and Regulations Committee at the United Nations as of 2018. So does anybody think it's a conflict of interest? Does anybody see an issue with our nation being at the helm of an unelected medical officer who's an obvious representative of the United Nations, who's implementing their directives lockstep? There's not many nations ahead of Canada in terms of the kind of COVID restrictions, we'll say. Australia is certainly one of them, but you'll notice they're all crown corporations. And I mean corporations of the British Crown. Keep that in mind. Another example, Doug Ford, Premier of Ontario. He owns decal businesses that have been responsible for printing social distancing stickers and those other kind of signs all pandemic long. The man's wealth has just, I don't even want to put a figure on it. I have no idea. The number I saw beforehand was something like 5 million net worth increase since he's become premier. So So we've got a Liberal and we've got a Conservative. Now, so you've got Dr. Tam is the Chief Medical Officer of Canada, but she's also at the UN in the International Health Regulations Committee. You've got Doug Ford printing social distancing decal stickers for at least Ontario, if not many other places in Canada, while being the Premier. Now, why am I showing you this? Why couldn't we just elect the right people? Whatever party that is, whether that's any party, okay? JP Littlechild versus the citizens of Wetaskiwin, or the electorate of Wetaskiwin in Alberta. This is a Supreme Court case that ruled on the accountability of your elected officials. Here in Canada, the Supreme Court has ruled that MPs and MHAs are not legally accountable to their constituents, whether that's the people who voted for them or not. And they're not legally accountable for promises they make on the campaign trail and their subsequent actions once taking office. The Supreme Court ruled that your only recourse as a voter who's been directly lied to and is now facing a fraudulent representative is to wait 4 years and vote in another guy. That's what the Supreme Court had to offer for the citizens of, the constituents of Wetaskiwin who took their MP, JP Littlechild, to court over his fraud. These people are accountable only to Parliament. That is the only entity or person that holds these people accountable. The minute they become members of government. Now, why is that important? If we just elect the right people, then it doesn't matter if they're accountable because they're good people, right? Interesting. There's a publicly available MP handbook, and this exists for your MHAs, your MLAs, and all that provincially, but I'm just talking federally for now. There's an MP handbook that's publicly available on our government website. Anybody can look it up. I have the PDF downloaded on my computer. There's 3 3 oaths that you must swear before you're allowed to take your seat in Parliament. So let's say that I have the purest of intentions, and I'm sick of watching fraudulent government rape its people and its resources and its land. And I decide I'm going to run under the PPC because they stand for freedom and whatever. Let's say I garner enough support and don't get slandered in the public long enough that I get elected in my riding. Before I can take my seat, there's 3 oaths that I need to swear. One of those oaths is an oath of secrecy to Parliament. I can't off the top of my head remember the middle oath. And the final oath you take is an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen. Now, Her Majesty the Queen has a Governor General who runs Canada. And this is not a conspiracy theory, it's not even opinion. It's in our Constitution Act of Canada, which is the governing body that our government and Parliament run on. Section 12 is executive authority, and it directly states that the Governor General can act solely on all matters of Canadian Parliament. That's why the Prime Minister has to ask the Governor General's permission for everything. And people say it's largely ceremonial, as if the Governor General has not, in my lifetime, overruled the will of the people and of our Parliament. They forced Harper into a minority government when there was a coalition majority formed. So now I'm having to swear an oath now as me as this well-intentioned, good-hearted, regular Joe who managed to get elected. I've had to swear an oath of secrecy to Parliament and an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen. And Her Majesty the Queen has a representative that runs our government directly from her. So how am I able to act in a manner that's going to provide recourse for my people if it's not the intention of the Crown? Because the Crown has your final stamp of approval. And just so you know, in the 2015 election, the first election that Maxime Bernier had his own party, he campaigned in my province of Newfoundland and came to my home of St. John's, and me and my father spoke with him personally face to face before and after his campaign event here. And he lamented to me that what I was saying to him was true. He just said, it's the only way I can see to do anything, so I'm going to do it, you know? And I wasn't as strong on him as I would have liked to have been, because I kind of admired at the time his stubbornness to you know, give the middle finger to the Crown. But I didn't fully understand at the time how much authority the Crown had here. I was under the impression that it was largely ceremonial, like your history teachers and your political pundits try to tell you, because they're counting on you not reading the Canadian Constitution Act. It's 2 pieces of legislation. It's the BNA Act from 1867, and it's our Charter of Rights from 1982. Both of those documents together make up the Canadian Constitution Act. Our government is operated under the parliamentary part, the BNA Act of 1867. And that's where in Section 12, under executive authority, you find that the Governor General can act solely on all matters of federal parliament. So how do me, as a member of a freedom party, as a member of a coalition of independents, I mean, even if we elected 200 independents who were going to form some coalition government, the Crown can, the Governor General can, and has in the past, like in my lifetime, and I'm only 30, said, no, I'm going to pick somebody else, another party, to form their government, and they're going to govern the people. It was, I'm going to say 2005. I'm probably wrong on that. It might be 07. Somebody in the comments will get me right. Either way, Stephen Harper, after an election, Stephen Harper's Conservative Party had gained a minority amount of seats. So they were in a position to form a minority government. But you have to ask the Governor General, and the Governor General grants you permission. That's how it always happens for everything in Parliament. Even though your CBC will tell you it's largely ceremonial. The Crown did not want a coalition government in Canada. The Bloc, the NDP, and the Liberals all formed an agreement to form a coalition government that would have had a majority parliament. That's the will of the people being represented in a democratic process. And they went to the Governor General, and the Governor General flat out said no. Pointed to Stephen Harper and said, run your minority parliament. That is the will of the Crown. So, if you hear me harping on not supporting political parties or not supporting politicians, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to shit in your pancakes. I'm not trying to be a troll. I'm trying to get you to understand that this system is rigged so that you have to, quote unquote, play in it. And you have to play by their rules. And their rules mean you have to keep playing their game. It's a circular argument. There's no way out. And just to prove that, Quebec tried to get out in this, inside manner by having a referendum. And when they achieved a 49% yes and a 51% no, the government got nervous and wrote a piece of legislation called the Clarity Act. And the Clarity Act makes it impossible for a province to use a referendum to get out of Canada. Even if they were to get 90% yes in another referendum. Now, according to the Clarity Act, all the provinces have to have their say and be in agreement. And if they're not, the referendum is nixed. So even if 100% of the people in Quebec said we want to leave yes to a referendum, every other province has to give their final approval. And have you seen our provinces agree on anything? Our provinces can't agree on what's east and what's west. And that's another problem with our Canadian Union to begin with. And union should be in, air quotes. So this is what I mean. I really want this part to sink in. I'm not trying to shit on your parade. I'm not trying to drown you out or troll your post or your information or your live stream or whatever. I know I come across as harsh. I know I come across as direct and the like, but it's for a good reason. They've got a smoke and mirrors game set up that they trick you into thinking you have to play. And the rules are such that once you're in that game, you are not allowed to get out. Now, the answer to getting out without going into their system, it's not necessarily the easiest thing in the world. The people have to come together and agree to declare official independence. And it's happened. The Republic of Ireland, the Republic of Poland, the Republic of Austria, almost every former Soviet Union. And the Crown has actually granted us a legal authority to do this as well. For those of you who want to look into more legislation, the Statute of Westminster 1931 lays out a path for the people of a province of Canada to remove themselves from this system. But the longer you participate in it, the more enshrined you become in a de facto system. Think about a lie, and think about if you lie to your friend and they believe it. Now, you've got to keep lying and keep making sure that your original lie stays true with new information coming in. That is... Hi, BB Lola. That is why we can't, utter non-compliance, united non-compliance, just say no. Whatever the message is from whoever it's coming from, as long as that message is not support my campaign, donate to my political party. . it takes, and I think us, yes, they only listen if the majority stand up against tyranny. And in fact, this is our lawful, not just legal, but lawful way out. And there's an important distinction between those two words. Legal is statutory law, this bullshit parliament that they've set up where they create these statutes and they call them laws. They're statutory laws. That's legal. Lawful is unalienable rights. Your inherent unalienable rights, causing no harm to others. That's what lawful, and the law of the land if you establish something. So if we wanted to declare independence officially from the crown, say here in Newfoundland, well then we would probably need a constitution, something that would be representative of the people, because the people have to agree how they want to be governed. Otherwise, there's no lawfulness to it at all. And that's what we're in right now. None of us agreed to this, not even our forefathers. The people that lived in Canada, or the colony known as Upper Canada, Lower Canada, some of the provinces, the Hudson Bay, Rupert's Land, they didn't have a choice in the system that got implemented. The Crown just implemented this system. So that's not a constitution. That's why it's a Constitution Act. The Crown just set up a parliament and then started passing statutory laws through their parliament and said, people, accept it. You have to. This is it. There's no land under your feet to stand on when you implement laws that nobody agreed on, nobody consented to. But we are consenting through participation. And you participate in a lot of ways. And I'm not talking down because I'm participating as well. Right? Things like your birth certificate, your social insurance number. Think about what these words mean. A birth certificate. Read your birth certificate. The long form. Social insurance number, right? We call it a SIN number and it just means we're allowed to work. But it's a social insurance number. You get a driver's license. They trick you into thinking you need to be a driver in order to operate a vehicle. Look up the definition of driver on your government's website. Don't even go past your government. Look up the Highway Traffic Act of your province and look up the definition of driver and tell me, are you a driver? And your answer better be no. But if you get a driver's license, now you are a driver and you're operating under commerce. Again, this is all statutory law. There's no lawful basis for it. So I've ranted way longer than I thought I was gonna for this, but I hope the message is kind of coming across with the pulling the wool over your eyes. A sheep in wolf's clothing is going to use this system, and any aspiring politician or representative knows the Constitution Act. You might not know it, and you might think to yourself, it's a little weird that this guy knows this. Is he some kind of autistic kid who reads? It's not long. And it's literally the one document that our government operates its procedures on. Not knowing it is chaotic, because you're not going to understand how and why your government is operating the way it is and allowed to do the things it's doing, because it's counterintuitive to what you know is right. Google the red serial number on the old style birth certificates, just like Peter pointed out. So, voting is the big way that you participate. The best vote you can make is not to show up and fill out a ballot for anyone or anything or any party or any aspiring politician, because we've just gone over this system. And if you're just joining in now, just please rewind, because I don't want to have to repeat myself about that. I just elaborated on it. So the best vote you can make, there's 2 votes, and you can make them any day of the week. I made both these votes about 3 months ago. Call Elections Canada and request to be unregistered as a eligible voter. They're going to send you an email. You'll fill out yes, 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 send it back, and then you'll get a confirmation. Boom, you're no longer eligible to vote. Then you call Elections, fill in the blank of your province, and make the exact same request. It's likely to be the same process. They might be able to just do it over the phone. Now, you've told both your provincial corporation and your federal corporation that you're not even going to consider participating in their popularity contest down the road, even one that they haven't called yet, even the next one after that. You're letting them know right off the bat, I'm not even going to participate in them. I have no interest in the fraud that you're running, and I know your system now, so no. And they generally ask you, why are you unregistering? So you can leave that there. I'm not saying anybody will read it, but it's there and it's on the record. And that's the only vote that you really should ever be making, honestly. And this is my opinion and my pleading to you. This is not me telling you what to do. And before I end here, I want to counter an argument. This is a hypothetical argument that none of you have made, but I have encountered it many times. My grandfather fought and died for your rights, so it's your duty to go participate in democracy, right? I've just elaborated to you what our quote-unquote democracy is, what our parliamentary system is, and how it's an absolute and utter lie, okay? So, and keep in mind, I have a grandfather who fought in a war, he didn't die. He said it to me, and he started me on this train of thought. He didn't fight for my right to be lied to, manipulated, and have my rights taken away by anyone. He fought for me to have my rights. So if we're in a system of governmental distress where we have an unlawful, unauthoritative de facto government, a corporation masquerading as a government, lying to the people and therefore removing their quote-unquote rights, that's not what your grandfather died for. That's not what our forefathers fought for when they, in the terms of the rights of freedom. So I'm not here to disrespect you and your family and the past fights. That's not it. I'm here to tell you that what they fought for is at risk. Okay? So with that, guys, it's time for me to end it. Thanks for listening. I hope you got some kind of benefit from this. Otherwise, I've just been yelling at my camera for no reason. Thanks for joining in, guys. And as always, you people, you stay sovereign.